Okay. For my retelling of Oedipus, I've decided to set it within a courthouse. The characters remain mostly the same and hold the same attributes they did within the original play. Of course, some things were changed to make it more modern, and I switched the story a bit, but the themes still hold true. To start, to start the setting, like said, courthouse, where the retrial of the convicted liars is being held. The jury, who in this case is what the chorus has been changed into, has been gathered, along with the sole witness of the crime, Oedipus, now a judge, but not on this case. As his wife Jocasta is there dropping off lunch for him, the courthouse is shut down by the police. Elias has been murdered, and it is now a police investigation, and until it's solved, no one can leave. Oedipus offers to help the jury and the police, even though he is now seen as an esteemed judge. Jocasta and Oedipus call for Creon to gather a private detective, in this case, Tiresias. I hope I said that name right. So that's my little overview. What I did remove is the part where Laius is actually Oedipus's father. So I have switched the story around a bit just to fit in with the modern day setting. I didn't think it was very probable that not that Oedipus would know his father, that is very probable, but I didn't see a good way to incorporate it into my story if I was going to have Linus be a convicted criminal. So instead, what I switched it to is in the original, we know Oedipus's father is in forgetting where it is, but we know who he believes is his father is the king elsewhere. I made both who Oedipus thinks his father is and Laius both his professors in college. And Oedipus had to attest in a court case against Laius. And he did so because he thought he was saving his first professor. So he purposely testified against Linus, and in the end, Linus got convicted. So that is where our story starts with Jocasta and Creon calling for Tiresias. So first, I want to get into the set where the story is taking place. So, give me one moment. So, this theater here is the theater I have decided to set my play in, which is named, I'm sorry, give me a moment, the Hudson Main Stage Theater. I've decided to set my play in this theater because it's where one of my favorite musicals actually took place, which is Bear, a pop opera. This is the stage that took place in LA, and I thought the stage was wonderful for where I wanted to hold the set and also the lighting I wanted to achieve. So here's some images of the musical I just talked about. They enjoyed changing lighting quite a lot. The set pieces are very minimal, which is something I very much enjoyed. And I thought the way the lighting was set up was perfect for a lot of the things I wanted to do. The set itself, I was inspired by Legally Blonde, because obviously that takes place in a courtroom. So this set, actually, we're looking at here, is not the courtroom set. This is the sorority house. But obviously, both a courtroom and sorority house, they have like Greek column and whatnot. And I found this set very interesting. Keep looking at different legally blonde things. This is an illustration, again, of what the sorority house looked like. And to me, it looked very similar to a courtroom. This is what it actually looked like out in front, which I thought would be interesting because a lot of it is going to be taking place out front. you can see the light in here got changed. But I thought that would be an interesting choice. 'Cause a lot of the lighting takes place outside. Now this is the inside. Um, this is a production put on by a college, I believe. And I really like the way this court setting looked because it reminded me a lot of the Skeena we talked about in the classroom. So I thought a set like this would work very well, also very minimal, very easily could be put on a stage, like the one I showed you, which is here. So I thought this would be very good. Along, we have another one. Again, the courthouse, very simple. It's like a backdrop. You have the benches. Again, I chose this because it reminded me a lot of the Skeena. And I know that I want to keep something that is very reminiscent of the Skeena we talked about with in class. And I think this is the final one that I ultimately decided on. Moving on to casting, I picked various actors, each for my own reasons. But I took your advice and I wanted to start off by casting Joe Costa. And I knew I had to make her look a little older, but also make the age not too obvious. So the first actor that came to my mind was Angela Bassett. Um, just a phenomenal actor. Even before I did my rewrite, I thought of her because of the emotion she can put into scenes. And that's something I very much want. A scene I chose not to rewrite is actually the scene where Jocasta hangs herself. I don't know if I would keep it in my version or not, but I think she would be very phenomenal at it, especially if it was more of the Roman version where she has a bit of a monologue. I just think she's a very strong actor for it. And here, I just have some of her work just over the years, just to show that she can perform on a stage. Next is Idris Elba, who I've decided to cast as Creon. The reason I casted him as Creon is, again, his ability to monologue. One, he looks intimidating, which I think would work very well for Creon because Oedipus obviously is accusing him of trying to come for his throat, come for his neck, come for his position. I don't think it'd be very believable if Creon didn't look somewhat intimidating and looked like that's something he would want. And also, near the end of the play, after Oedipus gouges his eyes out, Creon is there to talk with him, and it's very standoffish and still holds a tone of power. I think Idris Elba would be phenomenal at that, which is why I chose to cast him. So, again, I just want to show that he can act. Uh, in his case, he was last year in a hit play, and I just want to show that he is a stage actor and knows obviously how to do it. So my next character, he starred in Hamilton. Um, and this young man is gonna be playing Oedipus. His name is Trey Curtis. He is the current Hamilton on Broadway, and I had the great pleasure of seeing him live, which is why I actually casted him. Hamilton, um, in the musical, has famous monologue, and throughout the story, there are a bit of chunky bits where Oedipus is just talking away. And I thought Trey Curtis would be great to bring those monologues to a stage. He looks very young, naive, which is what I want for my version of Oedipus, but he also looks like a kind soul, someone you can trust, which again, I think is very important for Oedipus because this needs to be someone you can trust. If you can't trust him, why would you believe that he's not the person who wrongly convicted Linus in my story? The last role I casted was Tyrese, and this casting might feel a little odd, but I think it works really well. It is Martin Short. He's a bit of an older actor, but I know him from a few things. But one thing I know him mainly from is one of my current favorite shows, which is Only Murders in the Building. In the show, he plays a podcaster, comes across different murders, um, and him, along with two others, solve those murders. The reason I casted him is because of his eccentric personality, especially in the show. I think it worked really well for Tyrese. And also, in my version, Tyrese is a detective. So I thought that was perfect. In the show, he solves mysteries. I thought it was a good fit. And like I said, he's just a static character. It's static. And I think Martin Short's acting overall is just very good. And I think he could bring a surprising change in tone to it. So that's why I casted Martin Short again, just to show that he has been in a few things. I have his playbill page pulled up here. So yes. Now, as far as changes, I made the chorus the jury, as I stated before. Um, and my four quote rewrites, I did talk about my lighting and whatnot. What I did not put images for is the costumes. And the reason for that is because I think the costumes are pretty straightforward. Like I said, Jocasta and this, in my version, isn't a queen. She's just Oedipus's wife, obviously ex-wife of Linus, and she doesn't know that Oedipus is actually the one who was the sole witness on the case. I just thought that was an interesting twist. So, and it very much still fits in theme, in line with it. I didn't include the children in my version, just because I didn't see a way to make them fit. So I purposely left them out of my version. But I imagine her clothes as well as Creon, very business formal. I mean, you're in a courtroom. Same with the chorus who's playing the jury. That's what I imagine for them. As I said, Oedipus is now a judge. So I imagine him in that robe that the judges usually wear. Everyone is pretty business casual, not business casual, business formal, while Oedipus is dressed as a judge. Like I said, the police have shut down the courthouse. In my version of it, you don't actually see the police, but um, if you did, police uniforms. I think the clothing for my version is very straightforward, which is why I didn't provide any images for it. But what I want to get into now is my rewrites, which is where we are going to end, actually. So we have a few rewrites, and this here is my first one. This is the scene where Oedipus is speaking with Tiresias. I'm not gonna read the whole thing here. I'm more gonna read my rewrite. I'm gonna read bits and part of the original, however. Oedipus calls Tiresias a monster. Tiresias is like, I'm just not gonna talk. Obviously, we watched the scene in class, so it's very self-explanatory. So I want to talk about my version. Obviously, I changed the language to very modern and to fit with what I was saying, and I added some stage directions as well. So one example of that is this section right here, which is actually the one I would say I actually changed the most, where it's Tyrese, I have no more to say. Storm as thou wouldst, and give that the rein to all thy pent up rage. Oedipus, yeah, I am wroth, and will not stint my words, but speak my whole mind. Thou methinks thou art he who planned the crime and performed it too, all save the assassination. And if thou hast not been blind, I have been sworn to boot that thou alone didst do the bloody deed. If it's so, then I charge thee to abide by thine own proclamation. From this day, speak not to these or me. Thou art the man, thou the accused polluter of this land. So I would say I actually changed this part the most. So, switch liar to monster here. Let me actually read this because I did add a little stage direction. So Oedipus, monster, the lights move to focus all attention on him and Tiresias. So the lights at this point, I imagine they were cast all across the stage, lighting up the whole stage. Now they center in on these two characters, and I imagine them in kind of a blind and white that reminds you of a police interrogation. So that's what I imagine this feels like to Oedipus. So back to what Oedipus was saying. You refuse to assist with this case and let these people return home. Like I said, they're locked up. Your silence is telling of your character, and these people should gladly shun you. We have terrorists, and you can accuse me all you wish, but it causes no inconvenience to me. Now, obviously, the line up here, it's actually not that long. I thought it was longer before I did this rewrite, but it's not that long, so kept it kind of short. But I did shorten a lot of lines. Like I said, Octopus has a few good chunks of lines. And while I think Trey Curtis could easily perform those pretty well, and imagine he would do the eye gouging scene pretty well, which I did actually keep in. I didn't keep as many monologues in. So, Oedipus, how can you stay so calm when you are playing with lives here? Do you wish to just flaunt the power you have over us? Power being the knowledge he has of who committed the murder. Tiresias, what I have to say will shortly be uncovered by the police, so there is no need for my input. Oedipus, if it will come to light anyway, why inconvenience me and the jury? We have a right to know. Tiresias, I'm done speaking. Turns his back to Oedipus and begins walking away. I can already tell you won't accept the truth. Throws Oedipus a look over his shoulder and stops walking. Your anger is telling. A line like that, I think Martin Short would perform amazingly well. He puts a lot of emotion into his scenes. Again, which is why I chose to cast him. Back to Oedipus. This I imagine is him yelling, which Trey Curtis I think would be phenomenal at it. Like I said, Hamilton has a few monologue scenes. His most famous one is near the end when he's dying. But there's a few scenes where Hamilton gets very angry. Not even a few. There's a lot. And Trey Curtis, he did a wonderful job, in my opinion. Sometimes even better than the first ever Hamilton, Lin-Manuel Miranda. But back to what Oedipus was saying. Of course I'm angry. I won't hold my tongue. It's your civic duty to tell us who killed him. I have been appointed as the sole witness in this case, and I deserve to know who killed him. Tyrus, that's so. Turns back towards Oedipus, voice raising. You deserve to know, then I'll tell you. It was you that caused his murder. Oedipus, we end with slander. You liar, leave this courthouse at once. Again, I think the end I changed the most, but I think it still holds true to what it's saying. Um, Obviously, Oedipus says slander at the end. So my way of interpreting it, even though I don't know all the language so much. Well, this is obviously a terrorist being like, you did it. Um, I think that shortening it worked best, and I think my version's very easy to understand. And that's what I wanted. Okay, so my second rewrite here is when um when the herdsman man comes to Oedipus and Jocasta. Actually, no, I'm wrong. This is before he comes, and Oedipus requests him to come because it's been said that Linus was slain by one man, not one man, by many men, and not one man. Um, Obviously, it's Jocasta telling him, "Relax, you didn't do it. Prophecy's wrong." What I mainly wanted to use this scene for is the chorus. So as I said, I had my chorus acting as the jury, and I framed it as an argument, which we talked about in class. Sometimes it's framed that way, even though they all speak at once. In my version, they don't all speak at once, which I want to assume is similar to the Greek version since they had a label strophe one and strophe one. But that's the main reason I wanted to use the scene to really focus on the chorus and the role they're taking on in my version because I wanted to keep the chorus. in my version. Originally, I was going to have them be in the mind, be someone's conscious, but I think having them as a jury works a lot more because it shows that people don't believe exactly everything they're hearing, which makes the audience question it. So like I said, I casted Trey Curtis because of his face, not because of his face, because of his acting, but his face, you want to believe him. And I want the audience to feel that, but I also want them to feel doubt. And I think the best way to do that is through the chorus. So the way I rewrote it, I shortened what the chorus said a lot. They speak quite a bit, but what they're saying is pretty simple. So I kept it pretty simple. So we start with Oedipus. The county sheriff reported that Laius hung himself. If he was overwrought with guilt, then how am I at fault? Only one man can commit his own suicide. However, if the rumors that others attacked him were in his cell are true, the blame can still fall on me if I wrongly testified. Jocasta, I imagine he's telling the truth. After all, it is illegal to cover up the truth of a prison murder. Still, he should be cautious. After all, the jury has heard what he has said, and if it comes to light he has lied to a court official, I can only imagine the punishment. He couldn't be similar to the detective who made the jump to accuse you. After all, the reports state that Lias said he would die by his shroud's hand. I forgot to actually change this, but what I mean to say is like by his prodigy's hand or student's hand. Either way, I did forget to change this, but like I said, I changed it to where both Lias and Oedipus is who Oedipus believes his father. They're both professors in this story, so no blood relation. But the reason I changed it is because I think it has the same impact without the children being in it. Because for Jocasta, imagine marrying the person that put your husband wrongly in prison. I think that'd be pretty bad. So that's why I didn't think keeping the blood relation was as important. I think it's still very tragic. At least on Jocasta's part and Oedipus's part, because in my version, he knew Lies. Not his wife, but he knew Lies. Lies was someone he trusted because Lies was another one of his professors. But in this case, when he got the prophecy, or in this case, it was more of like rumor, superstition, that he was going to be the one to damn his own professor. He thought that meant the other professor, not Linus. So in court, he testified against Laius to save the first professor, which also brings in that karma element that was in the original. I very much wanted to keep that. So I'm sorry. Back to the quote. Um, Made the jump to accuse you. After all, the reports state that Laius said he would die by his student's hand, and yet he hung himself. The reporters are wrong, and he was controlled by superstitions. Oedipus, you're correct. Still, I think we should seek the counsel of the previous witness from the first. Um, I did say Oedipus was the sole witness, but obviously, in trial, there's multiple people that come up to speak, um, which is what I'm talking about here. So Chikasa basically says, come, follow me back inside. So they walk back inside the courthouse. I no longer have the image up, but I imagine they would walk in the door, much like how they would in the Skeena. And then the jury is just there, standing around. The lighting changes to fall on them. It changes from the typical yellow, orange, brown that I have to emulate courthouse lighting to white, as if they're office lights, and the jury is now in a break room. So we start with the jury. Jury members one, we could probably break this up. I didn't in this case, but Oedipus's judgment was correct. The innocent should be free and those who break the law in prison. I will follow his judgment. His education speaks for itself. Harvard Law and many successful cases. Okay, so this case is as a lawyer. I also forgot to change because this quote, even though it's quote two, is the first one I actually wrote. Where originally I made Oedipus a lawyer. But I think that this still works very well. If he was a lawyer first, he went to school, he got an education. He could become a lawyer. So it could still work. God's favor shines on him. So God I used instead of Apollo. And I thought that worked pretty well. Um, when you're in the courthouse, you swear on the Bible. So I thought changing Apollo just to God, I thought it worked pretty well. So back to the chorus arguing, "You're mistaken. Oedipus failed lies in favor of his professor. His education means nothing when his words stray from the truth, already filled with bias. May the light of God shine upon him and reveal the truth. The truth overshadows education." Back to the first one. "Justice isn't biased to those who are proud of their mistakes or not. Justice acts. Rid your mind of the falsehoods against Oedipus. Those who have spoken against him are jealous and wish to taint his good name. At the end of the day, who will be punished, which is a liar? Do you truly want to stand on the side of reporters just searching for a story?" So I imagine the reporters are the people that also started to spread this rumor that Oedipus, he done killed lies, or that he wrongly testified. Either way, and we finish off with the chorus, disagreeing again. I won't seek the I won't seek the word of a judge or lawyer or any court figure. My mind is what I can trust. I pray that before the court, um, under under oath is what I want to say. God was respected. May He reveal His power. Laius' trial is being turned into a spectacle, and the word of the law being dismissed. So I really wanted to showcase how I changed the jury, not that, well, they are the jury now, but the chorus and how I wanted to utilize them within my version of the play. So next here, we have quote 3. In this, Polythebes, is where Oedipus gets the news that his father has died, from Corinth. Now I remember the name when it's in front of me, but I didn't even look at it that time. But what I changed it to here is the messenger is a former student who was in class with Oedipus. Basically, this is the scene where Oedipus finds out what's what. Not that he murdered his professor yet. Not that he didn't even murder him. Linus was killed in jail. But he blames himself, is what I'm trying to get at. Um, Mainly what I want to focus on here was how I switched the messenger to former student. Um, so as you can see here, why has this man been let inside the courtroom? Jocasta says, "Oedipus, this man claimed he needs to speak with you urgently. He says he's a colleague." So I want to showcase what I changed the messenger to. Again, we also have some lighting changes here. So messenger, I'll cut to the chase. Polyphemus, our old professor, your father, in a metaphorical sense, is dead. The line shifts from a yellow-brown meant to emulate the colors of a courthouse to a somber red to single Oedipus's inner turmoil. Oedipus asked, was this a student or one of his own? One of his own or natural causes? Former student says it was sickness that touched him. Here, we have that the lights change into white to produce a calming effect because Oedipus now feels calm. Turning to his wife, laugh and hold an enthusiastic tone. "You were right. Why did I ever regard the words of that psychic who gets just throw and scream at the air?" I added this line in mainly because they talked about it in the original and I thought it was interesting, so I added it in. Sorry. They said I'd be the one to kill the professor, but look, he simply went in his sleep. Jocasta, I told you, don't let superstition control you. I just think this line would be said amazingly by Angela Bassett. I just do. There's no particular reason. I really just do. So from there, we have the last quote rewrite, um, which seems fairly short, and that is because what I do actually have here is the text that I chose to read. So the quote here I chose is the very first one here, which says, "'Tis Apollo, all is Apollo. O ye that love me, 'tis he long live hath planned these things upon me, evilly, dark things and full of blood. I knew not, I did but follow his way, but mind the hand and mind the inward. What were mine eyes to me when not to be seen was good." This is very close to the eye gouging scene, but I actually chose not to rewrite that. Instead, this is what I did. In my story, it does, however, still happen. Jocasta hanging herself still happens as well. She feels overwhelmed with guilt and disgust. But here, the lighting is great to reflect despair in this moment and is focused completely on Oedipus. So I imagine the spotlights, instead of being set all across the stage, they all turn and focus solely on Oedipus, who is center stage. So, Oedipus, oh, I did not mean to move that. Oedipus, oh God, how could I have gone against you? Sworn, sworn to an oath. The detective told me the truth of how I wrongly accused the man, and yet I refused to listen to him. I didn't know any better. He covers his face with his hands, voice taken on a crying tone. I just wanted to help my teacher. I was blind to the truth that was in front of me the whole time. And I imagine in my version, this segues actually either Jocasta overhears and then she hangs herself, or it segues into Oedipus blinding himself because he realizes, like we talked about in class and in the original story, that he was blind the whole time. He didn't listen to anyone else. And I obviously shortened this, but okay. But so there's a few chunks where Oedipus just talks, and I think Trey Curtis would be phenomenal at giving a monologue. And if I were to rewrite these scenes, I'd probably keep them as long because I want to see a performance like that. I just think it would be amazing, just overall. So that was my version of Oedipus. I did switch some things around to make it more modern. So maybe that's why they included the sons in the version that is coming to Broadway. I don't know. I think I hope and I hope the tone and the theme stays true. At the end of the day, Oedipus still remained blind. Um, Jocasta still got with the quote unquote, in this case, murderer of her husband. So I think the themes still hold very true, and I do think there is still very much a tragedy there. Um, that's mostly what I have to say, and I hope you enjoyed this little presentation and my version of Oedipus Rex.